For our first film, Unexpected, we utilised film language in a way that would maximise the payoff. My role in this film was writer, and I had the idea of using a series of extreme close-ups. This would keep a lot hidden from the audience, while also showing things in immense detail with the use of a macro lens. The idea was that we would lead the audience into believing that they were observing a girl getting ready for a night out with friends. However, the payoff reveals a male in a suit off to work for the day. The film demonstrates the fact that men wearing makeup is not seen as a norm in society, although it is increasing in popularity. We took inspiration from the short film and music video Flames, where a series of extreme close-ups follows two people going on a date. This short film is quite fast-paced, with the edit changing in time with the beat of the music. However, our film contrasts this as we use a much slower-paced song with extreme close-ups portraying a much calmer atmosphere. When lighting the set, we use only artificial lighting, and we achieve the atmospheric lighting by closing all the curtains and blocking out any natural light. We utilised the pre-existing lighting setup in the bedroom by turning on a strip light that was placed beside the bed. Then we made use of a cool blue light and positioned it so that it lit the character from underneath. The light in the room gave the room an overall blue tone. We contrasted this by using an orange gel placed over an LED. The blue-orange light combination is a typical convention often seen in film to create atmosphere, as the opposing colours really help each other pop. However, I have noticed that this colour setup is usually used to create a different kind of atmosphere. It's usually seen in action and sci-fi films, especially in scenes of high tension. For example, in Jupiter Ascending, in this fight scene between Eddie Redmayne and Mila Kunis. We wanted to turn this convention on its head by placing it in an unexpected environment. We also wanted to use a song that hinted to the themes in the film slightly, so for the soundtrack we sourced a song called What Are You Looking For by Ian, and we're lucky to get full permission to use this in our film due to him producing all his own music. To record our sound on set, we used a Zoom H4n handy recorder. There was no dialogue, so it was simply to pick up atmosphere. Although we were planning on using a soundtrack, we still wanted to get room tone so that we had options in the edit. We also recorded some wild tracks of sounds, the cosmetics such as the moisturiser to add extra intensity. I had in mind the intense sound we hear in the sequences seen in Requiem for a Dream. And for the second film, The Promise, I wrote the screenplay and operated sound equipment on the day. The film features narration and was similar in style to Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums, both in regard to narration and visually. The story depicts a girl who cannot stop breaking promises for her own entertainment. The film breaks the fourth wall, and it does this through a relationship with the narrator, adding another dynamic to it. This is similar to the film Stranger Than Fiction, where the character is aware of the narrator, although no one else is. Although it is done for more of a comedic value in Stranger Than Fiction, the result is still a surreal relationship between the audience, narrator and character, which is what we wanted to achieve in The Promise. We wanted to emphasise that the other characters are completely oblivious to Josephine's questionable habit. When operating sound, I used the Sennheiser MK600 microphone along with a Rode boom pole, an XLR cable and a Zoom H4n Pro Handy recorder. We had some difficulty with sound as we were filming outside and directly underneath the flight path. This meant listening carefully for any interference and checking online when flights were due to pass overhead. It was also important to get wild tracks of scenes, for example at the pier, so we could create an accurate atmosphere. With regards to shot types, the symmetry of the opening scene, for example, is heavily reminiscent of the symmetry seen in Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom, especially when it comes to the character of Susie. The camera movement, such as the whip hand to Josephine being disguised with a newspaper, is also similar to how Wes Anderson uses camera movement in The Royal Tenenbaums. It has a certain wacky, almost innocent value, which he wanted to mirror in our film, as it contrasts the dark nature of Josephine's habit. Lighting the party scene was crucial to get right. To light the party scene, we used a revolving disco light for authenticity, and also had an LED with an orange gel shining from above for some extra light that did not look out of place in the scene. We had limited resources when it came to extras for the party scene, so we used minimal lighting to make it look like there was more people at the party. We used costume to build depth to our character. Josephine is dressed in plush fur coats and berets in order to emphasise her power over people and her ability to manipulate for her own personal gain. She is good at what she does and she knows it. To prove the unsettling nature of her character, I wanted this to rely heavily on mise-en-scène, but subtly. This is why we often see Josephine drinking milk, alone and even at the party scene. This sets her apart from the other characters, although she still manages to blend in, as she still holds a glass like everyone else. This parallels with how she manages to go about life like everyone else, but underneath the surface, she is actually alarmingly different. We often see Josephine engaging in toxic habits such as smoking and drugs, so it is unusual that she would not be drinking alcohol like everyone else at the party, as health reasons are clearly not the reason behind her choosing to drink milk. We thought it was effective to use milk, a drink associated with innocence and purity, with a character who is often seen as morally corrupt. In Clockwork Orange, milk is used as a powerful tool to represent the youthfulness of the characters. It unsettles the audience as it is a drink associated with innocence and purity, placed in such an environment of extreme chaos and in the hands of his leader. It seems when a villain grabs a glass of milk, it's unsettling, but it also shows their sense of power. They're conquering the pure and innocent by consuming it, and there's a strength to that. In The Promise, Josephine drinking milk parallels with how she is conquering the innocence of her peers as they believe all the promises she makes. With the fridge filled with milk in the dark room, it also shows how this habit of breaking a promise is something that's hidden from everyone except her and the audience. The film Broken follows a character who feels unhappy with her gender identity. We see how she breaks free from her typical femininity to embody her true identity as a male. My role in this film was producer. The shoot was fairly simple and we were able to film in a day. Location sourcing at first was a problem as we needed a bathroom, but not one that resembled student accommodation anyway. We sourced an Airbnb as we were able to get in touch with someone that would let us use it free of charge. We used cinematography to portray the internal struggle of the character. High angles feature heavily as the character lies in the bath to represent how they are feeling insufficient and insignificant with her current identity. Pedestal camera movement is also used as we scrutinise the transformation, reflecting how she felt being in a female body she didn't belong in and having to deal with society viewing and examining her as such. Extreme close-ups also feature heavily. This adds to the intensity of the transformation and the sudden sprint of determination the character is feeling, similar to the way in which extreme close-ups are seen in the short film Break Free. Focus pulls are also seen throughout the transformation, mirroring the change the character is going through. People will now see the true character instead of a distorted or untrue or out of focus version. Amy is no longer an out of focus spoiler as she becomes confident through her new identity. Representing Amy out of focus is also similar to the shot of the taps being turned on. The audience can only see her reflection as she does this, however it is distorted and not like reality. This reflects how she feels about her current identity, not true and only partly herself. Reflection and mirrors are often used in film to portray an underlying meaning. In The Wrong Man, we see the reflection of the main character in a broken mirror. This symbolises the broken, untrue reflection many people have of him. The taps represent the same for our character in Broken. My role in the film Inverted was director of photography. I used a Canon 650D camera and a Tamron 24-70mm lens. Cinematography is not my strong point, but I wanted to give myself a challenge and to do something more technical. The tracking shot where we introduce the main character is taken from behind, reflecting the title of Inverted, as we do not introduce the main character from front on, instead we see the opposite at the back of her head. We shot this handheld and without a Steadicam, so making sure it was stable was a challenge at times. For sound, we used a Rode mic attached to the camera. In regards to sound, I had to be careful as I was walking directly behind Kate and didn't want the mic to pick up my footsteps as well, so I was careful to make sure my footsteps were in sync with Kate's as well as taking my shoes off. When recording the green screen parts of the film, we used softbox lights shining directly onto the subject. The green screen perhaps didn't look as professional as we wanted to and didn't blend in as seamlessly as we intended, but after all, it was an experience getting to use it. As Kate walks through the kitchen door, we use an invisible cut. This is where we begin to play around with the viewer's perception of reality. The quick-paced editing adds to the comedic value as we see Kate's confused reaction contrasted with the apparent normality and calmness of the situation in the rest of the kitchen. This quick cut editing is similar to how Edgar Wright uses quick cuts to maximise visual comedy, especially in situations of distress, for example in Shaun of the Dead.